Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelly Greene, Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. It's an honor and privilege to be with you here today on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. I'm joined by David Campbell, Head of River Forecast Centre, and Kevin Dunbar, Executive Director of Provincial and Regional Response in the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. Today we'll be providing an update on flood warnings and advisories in the Lower Mainland. Earlier this morning, the River Forecast Centre has upgraded several flood advisories, watches, and warnings in the Lower Mainland and into the interior. A flood warning is the highest category of warning in BC. This means that river levels have exceeded banks or will exceed them imminently. This could result in flooding in areas adjacent to rivers. Currently, there is a flood warning for Fraser Valley East, including the Sumas River and Chilliwack River, with the primary risk being water coming into those systems from the Nooksack River in the United States. Flood watches, which are issued when river levels are rising and will approach or may exceed riverbanks, have been issued for Ashnola, Similkameen, and Tulameen. What this means is that we are in a very dynamic situation and people and communities must prepare for potential flooding, particularly in low-lying areas. We are working directly with local governments and First Nations and partners in Washington State to ensure everyone has what they need to keep safe. Earlier today, EMCR and River Forecast Centre connected with communities at risk, and the province stands ready to respond with them. The Ministry of Agriculture is also reaching out to producers in the area to help ensure that they know how to prepare. The Fraser Valley Regional District has declared a state of local emergency related to the flood warning, which includes several properties on evacuation order and alert. EMCR, the River Forecast Centre, and local governments are monitoring the situation very closely. Other governments and First Nations will issue evacuation orders or alerts if necessary. I urge everyone that lives in areas at risk of flooding to regularly check your local government or First Nation website for regular updates on flood response. Information on BC flood advisories, evacuation orders, and evacuation alerts, and recommended actions will be regularly updated at emergencyinfobc.ca. I want to acknowledge that these communities have been here before and are still recovering from the 2021 atmospheric river. In 2021, when our systems were completely overwhelmed, the residents of Barrowtown heroically came together to protect their homes and neighbours. They showed up to sandbag, reinforced the Barrowtown pump, and they managed to prevent it from being swamped. This prevented up to 10 feet of water over the highway, and upgrades to the Barrowtown pump station are currently underway. While we don't know yet exactly what today and the days ahead will bring, the province is preparing for all eventualities, and we have a number of improvements in place that will help us respond today. There's stronger communication and coordination in place between communities, including Washington State. There are new monitoring stations installed on both sides of the border and new cameras installed on the Canadian side that are helping our teams get the most up-to-date information possible. We have expanded the use of the BC Emergency Alert so that any flood event that poses imminent risk to life, we have that tool available to us if we need it. There are provincial personnel on standby today who can be deployed to help communities on the ground, including with sandbagging if needed. We have flood mitigation equipment positioned in the Fraser Valley, and we have now improved our coordination so that they can be deployed faster as needed. There is strong contingency planning in place to support the City of Abbotsford continue operation of the Barrowtown pump station, and the breaches on the Sumas Dike have been fully repaired. Today, we're working with all our local partners to put this preparation to work to protect people and communities. At this time, I'm urging people in the Lower Mainland, particularly if you live near a waterway or a low-lying area, to remain up to date on the situation and take steps to prepare for potential impacts. That means assembling a grab-and-go bag for every member of your household, including pets, with the essentials that you would need if you are asked to evacuate. If you haven't already created an emergency plan, now is the time to do so. Information on how to create that emergency plan is on preparedbc.ca/emergency ready. If you're placed under an evacuation order, please follow the instructions of your local government or First Nation. During an evacuation, emergency support services will be available to support people that might need help with their basic needs, like accommodation, food, and clothing. At this time, our roadways and travel can be particularly dangerous due to pooling water. The Ministry of Transportation and Transit will have maintenance contractors monitoring conditions, clearing culverts, and pre-positioning crews and equipment to respond quickly to potential flooding. Please plan your trips carefully. Information on current road conditions is available at drivebc.ca. There appears to be more rain in the forecast in the days ahead, so I want to thank everyone in doing their part for being prepared, staying informed, and being alert. I'll now invite David Campbell to say a few words.
Thank you, Minister Greene. So I'd like to just provide a brief update in terms of flood warnings that we have in place, in terms of where we have active warnings and what to expect as we go ahead the coming hours and days. At the moment, we do have flood warnings out through the Fraser Valley, particularly in the areas around Abbotsford, through to Chilliwack, out to Hope, areas south of there in the mountainous terrain, and then along and out along through Manning Park. And in particular, looking at those tributaries, particularly on the Chilliwack River, as well as through the Sumas River and region. We've got flood watches out onto the east side of the mountains, particularly in the Similkameen drainage. So looking at the Tulameen and the Ashnola River, where this really event can be pushing across the mountains. And then really across the rest of the south part of the province, we have at a high stream flow advisory. So including Vancouver Island, the South Coast, Central Coast, and Sunshine Coasts, and including the interior mountains as well. So what we've seen is really a series of atmospheric river events that have been impacting the coast. We had the first of these coming in on Monday, and that is providing some of the context for what we find ourselves in the middle of the week now, where we have fairly saturated soils across the landscape and really accumulation of water from a number or a series of different storm events. We're expecting that the intensity of today is really going to continue to keep solid as that rainfall continues to fall, and particularly in that area along the border with the United States. And we are seeing the most intense rainfall really is falling into Washington State. For us, that includes potential relevance when we come into things like the Nooksack River, where the river itself is in the States, but the flooding of that river can impact into the Sumas and into British Columbia. So in terms of the rainfall, it is expected to continue through the day. We have Environment Canada has a number of warnings out, including an orange weather warning in place for the Fraser Valley, Hope, Chilliwack, and the mountain region, with the expectation of 90 to 130 millimeters of rain. And we've seen maybe half of that come down on the ground already. Now, the orange ratings are a new system that Environment Canada is using, and it is indicating that we really have a severe weather system, which has the potential to cause significant damage and disruption, and that those impacts can be fairly widespread. The rest of the region is under yellow warning for rainfall. And under that system, we're really looking at the potential for more hazardous weather causing more localized issues. And it's something that might be more familiar for us for a typical winter rainstorm event. So really that focus of the potential for very high flows and heavy rain is particularly focused around the Fraser Valley. And obviously we're watching closely to see if this weather pattern shifts at all as we go through the coming hours. To see that there might be greater flows or greater rainfall in some of those areas adjacent to the current mainstream of things. So rivers themselves are expecting to be rising through the day today. We're going to reach peak levels later this evening or into tomorrow for some of the larger river systems. For example, the Chilliwack River or the Nooksack River. So I'd like to speak specifically with the Nooksack. We've seen that certainly was a river that caused significant issues during the 2021 atmospheric river event. We've been in close contact with Whatcom County, as well as the looking at and reviewing forecasts from the Northwest River Forecast Center. At the current time, we're seeing that the potential, there is a flood warning out on the American side from the National Weather Service. With the expecting peak on the river at Cedarville at 148.5 feet. Currently, we're at about 146.3 feet, so we're getting quite close to the overflowing condition. Into context, in 2021, we saw that river go up to about 150.3 feet. So the forecasts for this time are a couple feet below that. But again, there is still uncertainty in terms of the rainfall. And so we are seeing some of the weather modeling is projecting the kind of high scenario of a similar event to 2021 is not likely, but it is a possible scenario. So we're certainly cautioning and warning around that condition. We're seeing the river right now at Everson, where the overflow takes place, to being about a little under half a foot of that breach level. So we do expect that water to start to spill into Canada in the coming hours here. Elsewhere, rivers are not quite at flood threshold, but we do expect that to reach up as we go through the afternoon into the evening here. In terms of updates, we'll be continuing to monitor conditions, and we'll be revising our warnings and levels as we go through the night here and into tomorrow. And as we look at some of the areas, I really just caution, while I've talked about the 2021 conditions, we can understand that impacts can be variable when we get into these kind of events. So there may be areas that see higher flows, particularly things like the Chilliwack River. And there are other areas where the impacts might not be or are not anticipated to be as severe as 2021. Again, things can change as we go through, and the weather goes from forecast to observed. And so we'll be continuing to watch for that. As we noted, some of the key hazards include those road and driving conditions, road washouts, as well as flood inundation, the potential for landslides, as well as just swift water hazards close to moving water. So urging extreme caution as people are out and about and planning ahead. So with that, I'll wrap up. Thank you for the update.